There we are.
Oh.
It's, it's like a sign of success.
Yes, we're
This
in.
is
We're
it.
in.
We're in.
It's crazy. We're so used to technology being so instant, and then you go live and it has that little lag, and it makes you wonder for a second, am I doing this right? But we are, and we have 13 people watching. Thank you for joining us.
That's
Thanks,
crazy.
everybody.
Yeah, fun. We're just getting this party started.
We've got 13 computers over here just booted up, all different logins. So that's us.
Phones and computers.
Uh, Pretty sure my husband's in the other room watching too, so he's one of those numbers, it all counts. Oh, we got Greg in the chat. Greggy is he's great. We did some live stream commentating at 2 a.m. during Cocodona. I don't know how I was awake, but it happened.
Nice. Congrats on your race, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I don't have my binder within reach, but man, you would have been proud of the binder I put together for that one.
Should
You're
be
a
an,
binder person, huh?
there's got to be like an ultra trail archive
It was my first
library.
Library.
binder ever, actually, and nobody used it, but it felt good. And I thought that as far as like having that resource in front of you to just flip open to a
Mhm.
page, and I looked at it at least once during the race. So there's that.
They need to have like reality versus what you guys expect. Like you think crews are sitting there like flipping through binders and like diligently looking at all this stuff, and when we're just like either vibing out at the aid station or we're asleep.
Yeah, you guys are just like checking the tracker and
Oh, the
anxiously
tracker.
waiting for us.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, no, nobody used the stickers I provided in my binder, or I had left some blank pages in the back actually and said, write me a love note, thinking, maybe
Jeez.
somebody would write me a note and like surprise me. But
Oh, 250 miles worth. They had all that time.
I know, come on, guys.
What else
What
are
were
we
you
doing?
doing while I was running? But yeah, so that was my first binder. And yeah, we were talking about that. Like, it'd be really neat to have an art show where we had like some key binders on display. I don't know, maybe I'm just a nerd for that stuff, but
Most likely. It's all runner too. Because he would never create a binder. He'd be like, good luck.
It's all up here.
Figure it out for yourself. And
I've
here we
always
are.
had a spreadsheet, but no, I actually got the plastic sheet protectors, and
Wow, you went
oh,
all
it
out.
was,
Nice.
yeah, it was fun.
Protect drink spillage.
Exactly. I mean,
There you
because it
go.
was raining, so
Yep.
who would have thought it would rain in the desert? But
Oh, that's
yeah, I didn't
funny.
want the
Coupons
ink
for
to
snow
smudge.
shovels.
Right.
That's great.
Oh man. Okay. We've given people 3 minutes, so hopefully we've gathered a few more viewers. It looks
Roll
like
call.
we have 20 people are now watching. So let's kick this baby off.
Let's go.
I'm Shelby, Ultra Signup Senior Content Manager. Recently finished Cocodona 250. That's what we were just chatting about before you maybe tuned in. And this is our second episode of Crew and A Live. So Ultra Signup is teaming up with the best in the business. Last Friday, we talked to Chaos Crewing Company. Now we're here with Ultra Crew Hub, and we'll be talking to Great Western Adventures next week, bringing you these free 3-part series packed with expert advice, real world strategies, and behind the scenes secrets to master the art of crewing. And this is truly for everyone. Any runner prepping for a crew eligible ultra, first time crew members, veteran crews looking to level up, friends and family who want to help, aspiring pacers and support team members. So if you're here now, feel free to send this YouTube link to your friends and family. The more the merrier. We'll be trying to watch the chat for questions as we go. But really, we're here diving into different essential topics straight from the pros. And today I am joined with Jory and Mason from Ultra Crew Hub with the topic really around logistics and how do we navigate travel logistics to and from events? How do we feed ourselves while we're crewing?
Mhm.
Because we're so focused on the runner, we often forget about our own needs. How do we prepare tactically, creating maps, binders, driving routes, game plans, and just how to stay engaged before, during, and after the race to keep the whole team moving forward to the finish. So, without further ado, here is Ultra Crew Hub. I would love for you guys to take a minute to introduce yourselves and tell me, tell us how you came up with Ultra Crew Hub and what is it that you do.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So this was I was a COVID runner, played a lot of golf. 2020 ran my first ultra, and then that was a 50K in Duluth, and then I decided that I would just jump into 100 milers the following year. Signed up for 4 of them. Zion was my first 100 miler that I completed, and in the preparation of looking into that race, we were booking hotels, we were looking at rental cars, we were looking at where we're going to stay. How's all this going to work out? And the race directors do a really good job of putting information on their website, and they kind of leave it up to everybody else to just kind of figure it out. You need to figure out where you're going to stay, figure out all that stuff. So my wife was wondering, Jory, she was wondering, hey, is there like some local center where we can go to, and instead of going 10 Google pages deep, we can just pick up in one spot. We can get a bunch of information outside of the race website from the perspective of people that have done this before. Like, where's the best place to stay? Where don't you want to stay? Where do you want to go eat? Where do you want to stay away from? And I talked to a few other friends, and I sparked the idea of Ultra Crew Hub, and we started brainstorming and putting this together. And I would say in about a year later, we launched our website and started soliciting from the community information on races and started putting some stuff out there. So it's been a fun project for the last couple of years, but ultimately it was her idea. And yeah, we've just been having fun over the last couple of years, and it's been interesting.
That's so cool. Is there one particular race that, like, I don't know, where all of the resource you've been putting together, you're like, oh, this is working. Like, it's a good thing we put together these resources. They're saving our butts right now.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple people reach out to us randomly and was like, "Hey, I just listened to your podcast on I don't know Mogion or Uri 100," and from that we've kind of been like, "Oh, okay, well, at least someone, whether this gets to 2 people or 40 people, but at least it gives them some insight into what they're getting into, not just from like reading it on
Yeah.
paper and being like, oh, hey, it's only 7 miles to the next aid station, but really it's going to take you 45 minutes.
Hmm.
So that's the content, what we want to get out to these people. And we feel like that, yeah, we're not trying to like get too big too soon, but at the same time, we just want to, you know,
One race in specific that we have on our website that we've kind of used as the foundation of what we're trying to build is the Wild Duluth series. And we have some information on there that I ran the 100K. She was my crew, and it was just a big rainstorm the whole entire race. It was half snow, half rain, whatever. She was leaving from one crew location to the next, and she actually found a laundromat. And she's like, hey, I'm just going to dry all his clothes. She showed up at the next crew location, hot, nice, dry, warm clothes. Perfect.
well, and it was, yeah, like stuff like that where it's like off the beaten path where
And
I kind of went at like a mile out of the way. And we were like, people don't know this unless you experience this yourself, because
Yeah.
you're not going to find that usually in a race packet, for the
Right.
runners. Because that's just not, the race directors don't have time for that. And I 100% understand.
Yeah.
So it's people like us in the community that, when we join together and kind of expose all that stuff for these crew, it
Yeah.
just kind of
I
unfolds from there.
love that example too, because I mean, in running Cocodona, I was not thinking that I would need to be doing laundry, but I was going through clothes so much faster because I was running through rain and mud and
Yeah.
ick. And so, um, yeah, even during my long trail FKT attempt, this came up kind of at the end of our conversation last week. My mother decided to wash all of my socks, and then somehow they got misplaced. And so there was like a long period of time where we didn't know where this bag of socks went. And but yeah, I think laundry is something that as the runner I've definitely forgotten about as
Yeah.
being like a pretty clutch thing during specific races when yeah, you might
And that's some of the
need fresh
information that
pants.
we're not at every race. We don't crew every race. So our platform is really community driven. It's free. Sign up. It's all free. Everything's free on there. But to have that bit of information that the community can offer up and provide the support anonymously, so to speak, where they just give you the information, say, hey, by the way, if it's these conditions or it's this situation, there's a good resource here, and this is what I found to help me out.
Yeah, and Mason, we first met in person. I was running on the
South
National
Mountain.
Trail in South Mountain.
Yep.
Yeah, heading west, and it was like right before Black Canyon 2024, which ended up being a really weird year for
Yeah.
weather too.
100%.
There was that flooding going into Deep Canyon Ranch where like some vehicles couldn't get through there. So I feel like
Yeah.
that was like some of the intel that you were soaking up while you were out there that
Yep.
particular year at the race. But yeah,
Yeah, we had talked a little bit about that, and I was there for that race. I got some good footage and stuff, and it was interesting at that Deep Canyon Ranch. As cars started to go through that, they were washing the rock out with the river, with the flow of the water. So the hole kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper as the day went on. And this year, it was completely dry. There was no
yeah,
water. So having bits of information like that via our podcast or on our website, just so somebody can maybe read it and understand, like, hey, if it's going to rain, don't drive a Civic or a Prius because you're probably not going to get into Deep Canyon.
yeah,
So
we were
just little
very
stuff like that.
worried. We were worried about our van with that one, but I think
Yeah.
oh, you know what? My friend came through with a Subaru. Yeah, that was a pivot that you know I don't
Yeah.
think again rain in Arizona. What? That's a thing.
Right. Well,
Come
and
on.
that, and as much as we love the runner, it's just stuff like that where we're like, we want your runner to be able to provide this stuff to their crew and be like, just listen, read it, absorb it, and we'll get you from A to Z, hopefully unscathed
Yep.
Yeah.
to your list.
So we are already starting to get some cool questions in here. One is
Sweet.
offline mapping. How many options, backup driving materials do you use? So yeah, maybe start by going through like what are some of the tools that you're using to do this? Is it Google Maps versus Apple Maps, Notes,
So that's a
Gaia
really good
versus like
question.
Footpath? Like there's so many apps that you could use to help
There's
navigate this.
Yeah, there's so much out there.
Mhm.
I think one of the most important things, Google Maps is a really good one. Gaia is a really good one. Anything that you can download a GPX file. I've used Coros before, where I've been able to download some of the GPX files. Um, but most importantly, what you really want to understand is cell phone coverage, right? Because if you think that there may be coverage and you haven't downloaded your maps offline or done something in that fashion, you're going to have a rough time. So anything most importantly would be double check the area that you're in, make sure that there's cell phones coverage. A lot of race websites will tell you whether or not it's hit or miss or spotty or there's good service or no service. Um, but if all else fails, just print them off. The race directors on their websites have really good step-by-step instructions. Just have that as a backup. They have the GPS coordinates. You can take the time before to create your kind of your routes and things like that. But any one of the major platforms that you use for map programming will work just fine. Just think about cell phone coverage and always plan ahead for those and make sure that you've got them downloaded.
Yeah, and we're not fancy. I mean, we're not busting out any new apps and breaking new ground with the next best thing. I mean, we literally just want to be like the normal Joe who's doing this for you so that your mom can be like, "Hey, I'll crew you, sure." And you're not like, "Hey, mom, you need this 2026 new app that just came out and I'm going to just sign up and do all these things." So just, I mean, we kick it straight line like Google Maps or like you
Works
said,
great.
just drop in those pins wherever you need to go and do things that you're able to do offline to get you to A to B. So
Yeah, keep it simple. I mean, I tried to use Apple Maps and
Uh-huh.
made a guide, which it worked, but you cannot text the guide across to people. It needs
Oh.
to be emailed because there's too many points in it, I guess. I mean, I went down like a Google rabbit hole
Yeah.
because I was trying to get this guide to my husband and he's like, "Doesn't work, it's not loading." And I'm like, "But
Right.
I just
Another
spent all
layer
this
of
time
stress.
making this guide."
Where the
So
heck am I
yeah,
going? Yeah.
Keep it simple. I mean, there's not,
simple.
I mean,
And
we're all using maps every day.
and honestly, if you're at a race and depending on if you're wherever you're at in the mid to front to the back of the pack, just team up with some other crew team. You just say, hey, their runner just left. Hey, do you mind if I follow you, or are you going to follow me? How does everything look? Just make that introduction and yeah, kind of team up,
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
out.
Get
I think that's
uncomfortable.
an important thing to note. The trail community is so friendly. Like
Hmm.
everybody wants to help each other here. So don't be afraid to ask the people hanging out next to you, you know, if you have a good question or concern
Well, and
about where
also
you're
be
going.
aware of the people around you. Like if someone is in tears on the log on the ground right there, maybe just be like, "Hey, honey, follow me. Let's skadooch to
Yeah.
this next aid station together. We'll get there together."
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
we've learned that crewing just to kind of be like, I probably look like a deer in headlights right now. And I'm not brave enough to like reach out to someone. So just be aware if someone looks lost, pick them up.
Yeah. We're here to support each other.
And it's been
Yep.
great. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, offline maps. I mean, as far as if what's your name? A Cruzy. If you're talking about offline maps for like navigating for pacing, I'm a big fan of the Footpath app. If the elite version's like $26 a year and you can download offline maps very simply. I think I worked at Koros previously, so I've had to answer a lot of questions about how to get GPX files in watches, and I've seen a lot of maybe not the most beautifully made GPX files on race websites. So there's DM me, reach out to me. I'll help you get it on your watch. But just like be patient with it. And I think like I think the step that a lot of people miss, especially with those Cal Topo links, is you need to say download to handheld GPX. It
Correct.
automatically defaults
That's a good
to
point.
like JSON or some other GPX file. So it feels more complicated than it is, I think, that step.
Right.
Super cool. All right. So what else? What else do we have going here? Okay, drop bags. That question came up
Oh.
actually a lot in the last one, and I think that we didn't get too deep into it. But what's your advice for drop bag strategy?
So we learned this through some friends of ours, and the drop bag strategy that we like to employ is we put a drop bag at every drop bag location possible, whether
Regardless.
regardless of crew or not. Crews can have flat tires. Crews can run out of gas. Hopefully not. Crews can have issues. You as a runner can be there through a lot quicker than your crew showing up. And if you have a drop bag and they're not there, you're covered. If they're there, you leave, they take your drop bag with you. So
Yeah.
we would employ to put a drop bag at every location. You're just covering your bases.
Right. Well,
And what are you
perfect
putting in those
example.
drop bags? Like, I mean, like how many? Yeah, go ahead, Jory.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say perfect example was um a race at Cruel Jewel is that I teamed up with a buddy and her and I just kind of cruised to these aid stations. And I was kind of panicked because it was a car and width and a half getting into this aid station, but it's two-way traffic. So now we have people coming in, people going out, and we're now delayed longer than we expected, things we did not know. And she was just like, "Oh, it's cool. He has his drop bag. He's going to get there. If I don't get there, I'm not going to worry about it. He knows what to do. We've discussed this situation
Yeah.
and off he goes." So, after we discussed that with them, we were like,
Genius.
Genius. Like you can grab that if you're there or not. I mean, you'll get your drop bag eventually
Yeah.
most of the time and
Mhm.
I
you
mean,
can
your
pick it
crew's
up."
going to pick it up for you.
Yeah. So just kind of keep
So
that in the back of your mind. with your runner.
Yeah, it's a huge load of stress off of the crew and the runner knowing that there's stuff there. But like, yeah, I want to hear more about what stuff are you putting in there? I mean, your nutrition for the next section, but you could go, I mean, it's kind of fun sometimes to look at a pile of drop bags because you can tell like some people packed like their whole life into that drop bag and
Sure.
other people packed, maybe a space blanket and some
A
goldfish.
Cliff Bar.
So yeah.
So on,
So and then like it could get expensive too because now you're like, how many
Mhm.
headlamps do I need to buy? Do I need a headlamp in every drop bag? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, how are you planning what's going in each drop bag?
So for me, I typically would plan my drop bags when I don't have crew. I mean, we have put some out, um, but my bags, I don't want to wait around when the race is done to get them. So I strategically plan based on the time of day that I will be entering that aid station, what I'm going to need, what I think I'm going to need, depending on the weather and things like that. I keep them very, very minimal. Usually in like a 1 gallon Ziploc bag. I'm usually got everything else in on my pack. But I have seen those drop bags where they do have everything they need. But me personally, I'm kind of minimal. I just put maybe what I think I'm going to need, and I get the rest from the aid station.
Yeah.
And headlamps, for example, I don't pack and put a headlamp in a drop bag. I'll typically mine are small and light enough. I just carry one on me with an extra battery, and I have found that those last me through the entire night. So I just always have it
Oh,
with
wow.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. The Petzl Bindi is my go to, like
Yep.
keep in a pack
Yeah.
headlight. And then maybe you can get 2 hours out of it on full blast, but at least it's so small you don't even know it's in your pack. So
Yeah,
it's
I would say also one thing for drop bags for me, it's kind of a paralysis by analysis. If I have too much in there, then I start to think, am I going to need it? Am I not going to need it? If there's too many options there for me in a drop bag, it I kind of go stupid almost, right? I
yeah.
just want to get in there, I want to grab my stuff, and I want to go, and whatever else I'll figure it out on the way, and I'll get it from the aid station. So
Yeah.
keep it minimal. Don't put too much in there that's going to confuse you or something like that.
Yeah, shout out Harold Hill in the chat. He said crew should take a photo of runner's drop bag for easier finding. And that, that was something I didn't take photos of them for Cocodona, but I ordered these plastic bags on Amazon and they all looked the same and they were like, "Oh, that's Shelby's drop bag." It was very obvious. And
Mm.
so
Mhm.
thinking about maybe how your bag can stand out among a sea of bags could help in a crowded race
It's just
expedite
like
that
the airport at
process.
the carousel.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's my bag, no
Yeah.
problem. Yeah. Well, and it's also runner based, the personality of your runner. We've had a couple podcasts. I know, shout out to Simon and Nora because ran so many races that he's kind of got the intel on everything. But he, the Leadville races, it's an out and back. So you kind of have to have these two different drop bags in the sense of like nighttime, evening time,
Yeah.
morning time, and that can fluctuate from a sweatshirt to sunglasses, the things that you don't think about. So you kind of have to think ahead as well in those races where, all right, when he turns around or when they turn around, what are they going to need? They're going to need sunscreen and sunglasses. It's 2 a.m., but yeah, they're not going to be back here till like 9 a.m. So you have to always kind of think one step ahead of your runner as well when you're making these drop bags if you're not going to be there for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, okay, you run through the night,
Yeah.
then the sun comes back up, like we're back into our sun clothes.
Mhm.
Right. And things, I mean, obviously we're talking about this because we're learning from experience. So
Yeah.
I like the picture idea. I that's Harold, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chalk that
Harold.
one up. That was a good one.
Good one, Harold.
well done, Harold. See, community.
Looking more at runner morale, what is your approach to keeping wheels on your runners?
Depends on the relationship.
Sure does.
I think that plays a key role. I think from a cruise perspective, you just always have to stay upbeat. You have to stay positive because your runners are going to come in tired, exhausted, and they don't want to do this anymore. And if you show one little sign of chink in your armor that you don't want to be there either, there's your out. You're gone. You're DNFing. It may not happen at that exact time, but your runner's going to leave that aid station and be thinking the entire time they're not having fun. We probably all shouldn't be here. So they start going downhill. You may start worrying about it. You may start getting a little more rough on yourself by the next aid station. And before you know it, you both are like, yeah, let's get out of here. So change your
Yikes.
mindset. Be
Yeah.
positive. Be an
And
angry beaver before they get there. But when they get there, be positive.
Fake it.
expect
gotta
that the
fake it.
runner could test you too. Like I'm definitely guilty of being like, what if I just say I don't want to keep running? Like what are they
Oh,
gonna
Shelby.
say? And like I know that I want to keep running.
Drama.
Even though I'm like in this low and it's like maybe I don't want to keep running, but I do want to, you know what I mean? So it's like I've definitely kind of tested mostly my husband in those situations where it's like I'm done running forever, and he does a great job usually just like not reacting to me, which I think it comes down to like knowing your runner in those
100%.
situations.
100%.
Right. Well, we've talked about that before in a podcast about you also have to be the the sounding board for these runners because you're like you're fine. No, you're not. Nothing's broken. You're not
Yeah.
in rhabdo. You're fine. Like let's talk about this in 6 miles. So it's just like little baby steps. You kind of have to get them into perspective. Yeah, you have 24 miles left, but we're gonna break this down. One aid station. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Yeah.
And you just roll out. Figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes some tough love. Like I feel like in crewing friends, I've been very like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and it feels, I don't know, like a little bipolar sometimes where you're like, okay, like I understand you're cold and like let's put some cozy clothes on, but no, you go.
Get
Ow.
out of here.
Yeah.
I've heard the stories of people saying, hey, I'll be right back. I got to run to the car. And then they just get in the car and leave and go to the
No
next aid
way.
station and say, we'll see you there.
That's not nice.
That's
You got to go.
great.
Last ditch effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's something to be said when a runner says, hey, I want to do this crazy feat. I'm going to run 50, 100, 200 miles, and I want you to come support me. Hold your runner accountable for that. And
100%.
like, don't coddle them. Like, it's your job to keep them moving. And so hopefully you can all still be friends at the end. I think
Well,
in most cases, the runner will be happier that you push them than you caved.
we've also talked to other runners who have a binder or have some sort of notebook that says when I get to this point in my race, or if I start saying these buzzwords, this is what I'm going to need you to say, or this is how we handle this situation.
Yep.
Because, you just may be tired and mentally broken, but there's like a threshold where you can kind of get to them to break through that and then go from there. So just a lot of the time, it's just like slap them across the face, and this is what we got to do. So
I want you guys to crew me. I think you can handle me well.
well, sometimes I forget and I'm hanging out at the aid station part, like chilling. And he comes through.
Got to
And
hit
I'm
him
like,
with a
oh
pole.
shoot, I'm here for a reason.
Yeah, I needed a slap in the face at Jerome during Cocodona. That could have helped.
Your husband wouldn't do that.
He was waiting for me at Dead Horse. It was
Oh.
yeah, it was bad timing. I needed should have planned for the slap in the face crew member.
Maybe
to
he
be
knew.
at Jerome.
Maybe he knew not to be there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those
Avoid that one.
fatal errors, but we kept moving.
That's good.
Yeah. It's a fun game we play as crew and runner.
Especially husband and wife.
Yeah, and when you two have gotten to experiment with that, it sounds like quite a bit. And so yeah, I would love to hear. Thank you. Partners crewing each other. I mean,
We're still married
yeah. Congrats.
after 5 years of that.
Yeah, I think like there's been times where my husband's pulled something out of me that I had no idea was within me, and there's been times where I've used him as a crutch. And so and like even thinking about this last experience with Cocodona, I had to say to one of my friends like, I'm using you as an excuse to complain right now. Can you go behind me?
Yeah.
As so I think it probably comes down to communication and
Yeah.
experimenting.
Yeah, it's for me, as the runner and her crewing, I love it She can cruise, she can show up, do whatever. Pacing, on the other hand, I worry too much about what I'm going to hear, or is she going to get hurt, or is this too far? So
Yeah.
she's paced a couple of sections with me at year A, but for the most part, pacing duties are pretty limited. Um, Crewing, though, fabulous crewing,
Oh,
except for the ginger ale. Sometimes you forget that, but
Oh,
okay.
how
Let's
dare you
just
forget the
let's just
ginger
lay this
ale?
out here. As crews, you
this is
bring
important.
everything with you. And of course, the one thing your runner wants is like a
Mhm.
mile down the road in the car.
Yeah.
So I had like four
But it's
pairs of
okay.
shoes with me, and he wanted the one I didn't bring. And of
Yeah.
course, we ever crew knows you never live it down. It like sticks in their brain.
Yeah. Yep. That happened with a friend too. Like she wanted this iced coffee. And we brought it to every aid station. And
Yes,
then finally the aid station she wanted it out. We were like, well, she's not drinking it. We're not going to bring it.
totally. Every time. Yeah.
Every time.
I think though
So,
with us and a husband wife combo, or even really good close friends, it's a great experience because you're both there. You both get to live it. You both get to, piss and moan about being tired and being cranky. You just enjoy the time, and I think it's pretty fun. I mean, you get through it. At the end of the day, you go grab a coffee the next morning and enjoy
Laugh about
breakfast
it.
and laugh about it. So,
yeah, eat some donuts and get over whatever
yep.
mean things you might have said at 2 a.m.
Sure. Those are off the record. We don't discuss them anymore.
What happens during the ultra stays in the ultra, right? That's the
Exactly.
rule.
Exactly. When that cutoff is shuts off, no more discussion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Holly Ollie Oxen free. You mentioned pacing, and so that was
Yep.
one of the topics we wanted to cover on this was pacing expectations. So yeah, what would you advise as far as setting expectations for pacers?
Well, first off, I think, and I've seen it before on the trail as a runner with a runner and their pacers. I think that pacers really need to be aware that, hey, you're pacing. You need to be fresh because
Mhm.
your runner's going to be exhausted. You don't, as a pacer, need to be staying up all night, vibing at the aid stations, not getting any sleep, not hydrating, not eating properly. So even though you're not running the entire race, you're running a portion of it. So you need to be cognizant and aware of what sections you're doing and how, if it's a 50K, if it's a 50 mile, whatever you're running, just make sure that you prepare yourself for that adventure because you're not only taking care of yourself, but you're also taking care of somebody else. So you need to be rested, you need to be hydrated, you need to be fed, you need to be ready to rock and roll, and not 10 miles into it wondering, oh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, I should have gotten more sleep. Just as a pacer, know your job and get ready for it.
Yeah, I think that also too pacers sometimes they're like, "Oh, I want to do all these miles because it's like my training plan." And
It's
also
cool.
just knowing that this is not your race and kind of being cool with doing what the runner needs you to do.
Yep.
And also along the lines of feeding yourself and being prepared, you're probably going to be on your feet a lot longer than you're expecting to be.
Yep.
We were out pacing a friend at Hurt 100, and this kid did amazing. He's like, a sky running. He's 21, like young dude who's
They just
definitely
run
never
anyway.
spent more than 4 hours like running probably, and he was out there for a very long loop of the Hurt course, and it was definitely the longest time he spent on feet. And I mean, thankfully he was prepared and did great, and their aid stations had amazing food options, but he was worked.
Yeah.
It's hard to go slow sometimes. So
Very hard.
yeah.
So yeah, I would just say as a pacer, just be prepared. And then like you said, just know you're in for the long haul. You're in for it.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that also
Yeah.
starts from the beginning. I think that's something you discuss with your runner because that's like a game plan in itself.
Hmm.
Because now you're got the logistics of I'm gonna have to skip probably these two aid stations so I can sleep, and that's where we're gonna have to meet up. But then you have the logistics of like car rides and things like that if there's only one crew. So those are things you really have to map out. But it's not just like, oh, hey, I'm gonna pace you at mile 75. This is gonna be great. Well, how are you going to get from 85 back to your car? Or, just the logistics of that also you need to play into this conversation before the race starts. And then again, just the mental well-being of the pacer. Like you have your race in itself. Like, yeah, you're probably only going to be doing like a 10K or a 15 miler, but get your nutrition, get off your feet and be
Mhm.
prepared.
You know,
So, and get out of the sun. And some of those
Yeah.
races, they're just out there. The
enjoying
anxiety's
the day.
high, the vibe is going.
Javelina, man. Javelina,
Yeah.
you just sit out
And
there and cook, and then all of a sudden it's time to run.
yeah,
Right.
I
Well, and you're
mean,
caught up in the vibe too. Like I've
yeah,
seen that a lot where I'm like, oh, shoot, he's going to be here in like an hour and I haven't got off my feet. I've been hanging out with other people at their aid stations and, their little campsites. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's go. Oh, geez. Okay, let me guide you in the night here.
and
Yeah.
know the event that you're pacing in. I mean, pacing at the Year A 100 is a lot different than pacing at Javelina.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I can imagine.
so know your event, know what you're getting yourself into,
And train.
and be prepared for it.
Right, right.
A
Training
pacer needs to
is
train. Don't
important.
just find your grandma and say, hey, grandma, can you want to run 6 miles with me? I mean, my mom probably could, but,
Yeah.
some people you just don't, pick up and start running with them.
Okay.
That'd be a cool
Sorry.
grandma.
Sorry. I'm just letting you know.
So you mentioned the importance of feeding yourself as crew pacer and also travel logistics. Like, how much of that is on the runner's responsibility to figure out ahead of time? I know that I'm personally guilty of being like, this is the plan, this is the binder. Like, you guys have 3 cars, you can figure out how to drive without me. But should I be helping with those logistics more?
I would say no as a runner. I think it's really important to understand, like, what race as a runner you're entering and you're running and you've signed up for and you're towing the line at, and you potentially have the opportunity to pick your crew out in advance.
Mhm.
So logistically speaking, you're going to have those meetings where you work with your crew, you define those goal lines, you define those expectations, and then just let your crew handle that. You're there
Yeah.
to run the race, you're there to enjoy their time, and just let them figure that stuff out. They know where they need to be. They're going to figure that out all ahead of time. And that's the crew's job, and that's what they should be doing, and just giving you what you need and supporting you in your race. You
Hmm.
shouldn't have to come in wondering, hey, do you guys know how to get to the next aid station?
Right.
They
Okay.
should know all that stuff
Yeah.
100%. And it's great that
Yeah.
you have a book, and if people want to build those books and those things like that, great. But identify your crew early, get them set up, give them the resources or the direction to the resources that they need. Ultra Crew Hub's a great spot, and they'll figure all that stuff out. So I would put a heavy weight on their shoulders to say, look, guys, you got to get to the next aid station. Just make sure you can get there.
Yeah, you hear that, Cruz? You're not just sitting around eating Oreos. There is work to be done. We've asked you to help for a
I would
reason.
rather run. I
Yeah.
we do Ultra Crew Hub, but crewing's hard.
And the timing in crewing is so weird. And you touched on that a little bit, where it's
Mhm.
like time moves so slowly, and then all of a
Hurry up and
sudden,
wait.
there's your runner. Hurry up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we always joke it's like you're like 3 minutes of fame, depending on it's the hurry up and wait method where you're like, oh, okay, and then he's here, and you're like, oh, okay, bye. And you're like, all right, well, on to the next,
Yeah.
and to do the same thing again. But to kind of circle back to your like the logistics of hotels and car rentals and
Mm.
stuff like that, I think um I think that's sometimes on the runner because you're kind of dictating that flow from, sometimes your crew just shows up and you're like, cool,
Mm.
you give me your, I know 2 different opinions on this, but from, from a crewing point, we've crewed people where they took care of all that. They got the rental car, they got the hotel, and then they were like, my binder, and what you do with it, that's up to you. But, here's my pacing through. If I'm on this amount of time, here's the hours I'll be in this aid station. If I'm moving this slow, here's what they'll be.
Mhm.
So, again, I think runners in the beginning kind of lay that red carpet out first. And then that's when the gun goes off, and kind of a little before that, that's when crew takes over. And that's where we're like, hands off, we got it. We're prepared, and we'll just go from there. But
Yeah, I think like this will kind of get into one of the questions in the chat too about etiquette, but like for Cocodona this year I actually booked Airbnbs, which is something that I hadn't done in the past. In the past I've just been like, hey, you're cool camping in your car, oh, you got a van, you got a rooftop tent, like you're
Yeah.
good, we'll be fine until we get to Flagstaff. But this year I booked an Airbnb in Cottonwood, which is sort of in the middle of the course, and one in Flagstaff, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Nice.
And it doesn't seem like my team has trashed my Airbnb rating, so that's good. Haven't seen the reviews yet, but so yeah, there's like, in saying that, what is the etiquette around taking care of your crew as a runner? And I think I'll semi answer the question because I heard uh I think it was Ben Light who will be on our podcast next week. I think he said this like way back when I did one of my first crude races, was like, you should always get your team like some kind of little trinket, something. But I think that, I don't know. Yeah, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts because I think that this is like, obviously trail running's grown, and
Mhm.
they're like, should we be laying down some etiquette on what's expected of runners and crew relationships?
I think it's important to note that when we run these races, we invest the time and the effort into the equipment that we use, our shoes, our packs, our poles, our clothing, our gear, and stuff like that. You have to look at your crews as being that support for you that you need to invest in as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a level of etiquette that should take place in getting the flight, getting the hotel, getting things like that, getting them some sort of a memento like you spoke to that Ben had mentioned, getting them something to make them feel really appreciative that you're happy that they're there to support you. And I think you should there is a level of yeah, etiquette involved that you should invest in the support for you because they are your support. They're just like a I don't want to say they're like a pair of shoes, but they kind of are, right? They help you get through the race.
Oh,
And
They
they're
do.
there, so you should invest that money into that.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's sweet. Still waiting on that flight.
They're still shoes. You're like a pair of shoes. But yeah, I mean, I paced a friend of mine at Bighorn, and yeah, he gas, hotel, food, and I was there. I was grateful. I was just beyond excited to be there
Mhm.
to pace him, and did up to Jaws and back to Sally's, and it was a great time. And he took care of it. He took care of it, and it was kind of humbling to think I should help him out. Hey, no, let me take care of it. I'm here to do this. You're here to help me. I'm here to help you. So let's just make it happen. So I think it's a good investment. They're there to support you.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also don't think that 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 decision to deter you from having crew, because some people
Mhm.
can't take on that financial investment.
Mhm.
But like, you guys drove, he's driving anyways. He's going to be doing that anyways. You're just like another passenger in the car. So there's
Mm.
stuff like that where it just makes sense to be like, oh, I got this. We're making this trip anyways together. My treat, whatever. Thank you for coming along. But there's also the times where I'm like, I don't expect a friend to be like, I'm paying for your Delta flight, I'm paying for your hotel, I'm paying for all these things. There's just sometimes that may deter a runner from ever wanting to take a crew. And I don't think that, obviously it's a discussion you have with your friends
Mm-hmm.
before that all happens. So, I mean, don't let that deter you from having a crew at some of these big events.
I guess I should have been more clear on that. You should invest in that support, and it may not be fully a full investment, but you should
Sure.
offer.
Buy him a beer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where's my beer?
Write them a thank you note,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think I was telling myself this while I was running, like, your crew wants to be there for you. And
Yep.
so there is that.
Mhm.
Like, they wouldn't have agreed if they didn't want to be there supporting you. And
Correct.
so um shower them in love however you can financially do that, I think.
Yep.
And yeah.
Well, and just
Yeah.
the Airbnb, just somewhere to shower and to change
Yeah.
clothes outside of a back of a car is always a very nice treat for crew.
Yeah, I felt like I said, it was the first time that I I was able to do that, and I felt it made me feel good. It made me probably run better because I knew that my crew like wasn't sitting, especially because it ended up being rainy for days. Like they weren't just sitting in their cars in the rain for days. Like that could have
Yeah.
been really, and it probably was really miserable at times,
Yeah.
even with an
Sure.
Airbnb.
Sure.
But they were there for me. They wanted to be there, and so don't let that deter you from having a crew. Just
Oh, 100%.
yeah,
But
have the
coming from
conversations.
like putting myself in that situation from crewing in those awful temperatures or rain or whatever, a crew really doesn't even think about that. Like the whole time, I'm more worried about him and him being out here. Like if there's a bolt of lightning or there's clouds rolling in, a crew is always like, oh gosh, like he's about to head over that peak. And like I'm dry, I'm fine. I could head over. Oh,
Drop.
I can head over and grab a beer. I'm sorry, no drinking on the job. Grab something while I wait. It's him. I'm always thinking I'm worried about. So we both kind of worry about each other in different, and we all take on that burden separately. But I mean, during Cocodona, that's a freaking different beast. But people do it and they love it and they get through it. So
Yeah, man, it makes me want to go crew a 50 miler. That'd be so nice and chill.
totally.
Wait,
I'm
that's
really
an
good at crewing
option?
100Ks. No big deal.
Yeah, what a great distance.
50K.
50K. Sweet. I'm here for it.
No pacers usually in a 50K though, which is, I mean, yeah.
I'm fine
So
with that.
you're just crewing. Yeah, that's simple.
It's my
Simple.
jam. especially those races where you just sit at one spot. Like, Bighorn, you got one but one loop, right? Or there's a couple spots.
There's a couple
There's a
spots at
couple.
Bighorn.
I'm sorry, not Bighorn. Hurt.
Oh yeah, hurt. Yeah, you're pretty
Yeah.
much just in one spot, and like you
Yep.
could go to this other spot. We did once, but you really don't have to because it's only like
Yeah.
7-ish miles away from the
Mhm.
main spot. So it's like they should be fine.
We'll see you back around.
That'll be good. Okay, some Harold's in here chatting about like the crew area, which is an interesting kind of an similar like etiquette thought too of you know
Mhm.
but usually in these aid stations there's a designated crew area, and I think kind of what Harold's saying is like you don't want to be there too early where you're taking up all this space and then other runners don't have space and they're maybe getting there before your runner. And so yeah, maybe speak on that. Like how do you like what does setting up camp look like when you get to these aid stations?
So I'm gonna take over on that one. So this is where we come in because a lot of these places you don't know. They don't describe that most of the time in these race packets. Is like this was one of the reasons why we started Ultra Crew Hub is because we want to know if we're parking a mile away and having to trek in, if we're gonna need a wagon, if we're gonna need a backpack, is this just a small parking lot? I think the etiquette comes from knowing what you're getting into or just getting there and being like, oh, geez, I know not to park on this sagebrush over here because that's not what the race director would want. So I think it's when you get to these aid station parking lots, assess the situation and be like, I don't have a parking lot. Maybe there's an overflow down the road.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Keep
you
going.
don't need 16 people in your crew team.
Let's start there.
So I think
Yeah.
to Harold's point, in getting into a crew location to an aid station area, be as minimalist as possible. Keep your footprint small. It's you have one runner. Everybody in there has one runner. It's really going to depend on how much space you it's kind of an unwritten rule how much space you're going to have depending on where your runner is at in the pack. If it's in the front of the pack, they're popping through there very quickly. So you can generally keep your space pretty small or as big as you want. If you're a mid pack or the back of the pack, those aid stations get really, really cramped and tight. Just be respectful and keep your footprint as small as possible because everybody is going to want to try to jockey for their positions as well. you're only crewing one runner, you don't need the whole kitchen sink for them when they come through. It would be nice, but yeah, just keep your footprint as small as possible.
Well, and everybody wants to get to that first aid station quickly.
Yeah.
Everybody's so
It's the
pumped.
hype.
It is. You feel that just energy, and you're like, okay, here we go. I'm going to get there now. And we've got 24 miles until
Yeah.
they get there. You're like, assess it and just know, kind of time it out. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you can sit there for an hour if you need to, but at the same time, like, just hold back a little bit and just not be in the way of people trying to step over you, and you're like, oh, excuse me, you're stepping all over my stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the knowledge of knowing your timeline, of your runner. So, but
Mhm.
again, there's
And
some places, aid stations, that are wonderful and everybody can join and it's a full party. And there's other places where it's a trailhead and you probably are going to start lining down the trail with everybody as a crew.
yeah.
So I think you just assess the situation and just, hey,
Listen to the race directors, get the information off their website. We've and are building on our website and with the podcast information like that, like how big are these aid stations, what to
Mm.
expect.
Yeah,
Um,
because I mean, I love the ones where you can just park the car and the runner is gonna run by the vehicle, and then
yeah,
you don't have to take anything out. I mean, that's gold,
heck yeah, that's the best.
yeah.
right? So, but yeah, you're right. It's not in a race. That's not in your runner handbook at
Right.
all. Like how that flow works. So that's very very cool that you guys are working on putting together those resources.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know. So I mean, like when you're running a first race, we understand, like, I mean, everybody else understands that you don't know unless you've been there before. So when you take off, a lot of people, I will say this, we have some friends that actually, and if you have the capabilities of doing this, they kind of do the course and aid stations the day before, and they kind of just see what they're getting into. If you have the time to do that, I think that is a great idea, because then
Mhm.
you kind of know for your crew, this is where I'm going, this is, and they just buzz through it if it's something that's doable. Yeah, you don't have to hit all 7 or 6 of them, but just the hot spots are kind of good to see.
Yep. So hope that helps Harold
Did we
out in
answer
that
your
we
question,
answer the
Harold?
question. Just keep
Yeah,
your
yeah.
footprint
No, that was a
small.
good.
Yeah, be
That was a
respectful
good
for other people
conversation.
and offer up the space. If your runner's not there and somebody needs to kind of take up a little bit of space, just move yourself over. And the
Yeah.
community's really good about it. Everybody's there to help everybody else out. So
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think that was a good conversation on that because that's yeah, it's not something that I've like verbalized with people before. So, but I've
mhm.
definitely, felt it, felt the
Yeah.
pressure of like, oh my gosh, there's no room to set up for my runner and I have, a cooler and a chair and like now what? And
Oh,
yeah.
we've seen Suburbans pull up and 10 people get out and set up camp chairs all the way around it and take up like
Like
4 spots. And
tailgating.
it's like, what are you doing? Like there's other people that are coming in looking for parking spots,
Yeah.
and it's just keep your footprint small.
I will say that when it gets, clogged like that, it's good to have, like, some people get really creative on how they flag down their runner. Like some people bring
Mm.
noodles, some people bring like a broom or like pom poms, something. If you have just anything that sticks out and kind of flags, because your runner's coming in and all they see are faces and they don't know who's left and right and where you
Yeah.
are. So sometimes it's nice to have something a little obnoxious to like flag in the air, or like a flashlight or something. And I've learned that firsthand, to just find like glow sticks that we just kind of lay around or have just whipping in the air when we know he's coming. If we see him before he sees us.
I love that. Like love
Yeah.
that. As a runner who's even going into like Crown King, I very quickly saw my crew, but like you start seeing people and you're like, where are they? And
Yeah.
And then you're wasting time. Yeah.
yeah, you feel like a little spaz because you're like, they're there, but like you just want to see them right away. Like there's
Yep.
something. I mean, I think it's like that. It's that mental piece for the runner too. Is like they've been running for hours to get to you, and so it means a lot if you're very boldly visible as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your time to shine, crew.
Yep.
And I
Do
think
your
at least
job.
with Cocodona, they're saying like within a quarter mile of the aid station, like crew could mingle. And so, I mean, even if somebody's like walking out a little
Mhm.
bit, as long as it's following the rules of the race,
Mhm.
I personally love that. Maybe I'm
Hmm.
high maintenance, but
I love that. If I can see it from a distance too, like that's crew like awesome, because then you're
yeah,
getting ready as they're coming in, and visually you can just be on point when they come through. So
yeah, it feels good. It's all about trying to feel good during these things because most of the time it hurts. So any little ounce of comfort is so helpful. You kind of answered. I was really curious what you were going to say for this, but like you kind of said it with the pool noodles, but like what is the most overlooked piece of gear for crewing that you think is super useful?
oh, for crewing, a chair. I mean, I know it's there
Overlooked,
for
but
the
that's not
runner.
really overlooked.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not really something that you can carry around with you all the time, but if you have the space to set it up, we had that bug net
Oh,
tent thing that we had at Uray, and we set it up at
mm,
Ironton,
mhm.
and everybody was coming into it because the bugs were so
The
bad,
flies.
but they were sitting inside, shielded with this huge bug net. Now that's not something that you can
No,
generally take to a crew location.
every time and set it up with the
The most
space.
overlooked.
Um, I th-
Warm clothes.
oh
Mm,
I
yeah.
think people get really suspect at night on these big mountain races when they get into most people will think, I'm down in this lower section
Mhm.
of the course. Why is it so cold? Well, it's because the cold air sinks. And so people will get into these aid stations and be just absolutely frigid. So I think that's a really good one. One of the biggest things overlooked is people dressing for the cold. You get into these high mountain races, and typically the lower elevations where the aid stations are,
Yeah.
that's where it's typically the coldest. So
yeah,
warm clothes.
yeah, that's a good one. Somebody asked about like night crewing for Kettle Moraine, which I don't think totally has that like mountain, elevation profile that you're describing, but still it's nighttime and yeah, as a crew, it's just you have if you have the space, bring the layers. And
Yep,
there's a
bring the
good
layers,
chance your
100%.
runner's gonna come in shivering and you're gonna pull your layer off of you and put it on your runner too.
Yep.
So
I'm also going to add to that, from a selfish standpoint, and this isn't an ad, but the
Topo Chicos.
no, no, the jet boil. If you
mm,
have,
Yep.
oh my gosh, that is a lifesaver for crew, from the sense of eating to drinking, coffee to noodles to oatmeal, just something warm, even for crew, because we're not going to the aid station and being like, hey, can I get a slice of that hot pizza you got whipped
No.
up in the back there? I think you need to play the part of, like, you're your own chef. You're going to need to find your own food, because technically you're living off Swedish fish and Cheetos.
Yeah.
And as a crew, I think that gets overlooked. Like, bring some lunch meat, like, bring something for you to eat and make on the fly for yourself, and not assume that the aid station's going to feed you.
Yep.
Um,
right.
so it's just like our jet
Jet
boil
boil is awesome.
is our lifeline when we go to these things. And we've just learned that from other people, just looking around, and they're like, do you want a cup of coffee? I'm like, absolutely. How are we going to do that? And they're like, watch. And, they bust out things that you don't even think about. And you're like, oh, see, I got to keep better care of myself and not just nibble off my snacks for my runner.
Yep.
Cool. Looks like my video might have frozen. Can you guys still
Yeah, we
see
can
me
still
and
hear
hear
you.
me?
There
Oh,
you
there you
go.
go.
You're
Okay.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Phew.
Mm-hmm.
I was like
Yeah.
sweating over here watching it freeze.
I know you got that golden hour on you.
The sun just started to hit me. Yeah, it's golden hour,
Yeah,
baby.
look at that.
That's
And
awesome.
it actually, yeah, we're coming close to cutoff here. So
Chasing them.
um with that, is there anything else that we should be talking about on
So
this call?
yeah, I think there's one thing that's really important for crews, and I've noticed this with race directors. They get the race will start, and they'll say, "Hey, all you crews, after the race starts, stick around for 15 minutes. We're going to talk about some stuff." that's a good time for crews to interact with each other, say hello, introduce themselves, try to create some sort of a connection with other crew teams that are in the same race and event that your runners in. Um, we also have an app that's out that we're trying to get races specifically on the app that you can go and check into. And so if there's other crew teams that also check into that same race, you set your notifications to on. You guys can chat and talk back and forth to each other specifically on that race.
Like, hey, I left my pair of gloves back at the aid
Mhm.
station 5.
Yeah.
Can anyone see that? Or I left my cell phone, or my runner has a needs some gloves or anything like that. So we're just trying to find that line of communication when you're at a race instead of having to be like,
Yeah.
hi, hey, so sometimes texting is just as easy, and you start that line of communication there and break that barrier and then go from there.
Yeah, because the crews will have, the runner has one, two, maybe three or four crew team members, but a crew has the entire crew community at the race at their disposal. So the runner can be out on the course meeting up with our crew team, but a crew team can kind of hang out and have unlimited a number of resources. So make those
Through
connections with
that app.
other crew
Yeah.
teams and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So because you
No,
never know what you're
that's
gonna need.
totally. I mean, so an example where that could have come in handy was I dropped they're actually my husband's headphones that I
Yeah.
just bought him, like a brand new pair of shocks. I think like just leaving the aid station uh
Oh
somewhere in the
shoot.
middle of Cocodona, and I knew that it had happened. Like I figured it out quickly because I went to play music and realized they were no longer on my head. And thankfully, he is connected to Aravaipa, so he was able to message their team, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we found them and we
Oh,
got them back." But like, it's those things that like
Yeah.
yeah, any crew, any runner who ran by them probably thought the same thing, like, how can I get these back to the person who lost them? And if you can
right.
create those connections
Yeah.
among individuals, and yeah, I don't know, it just helps everyone, like we started with this call, feel more supported.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. And our app's pretty unique in the sense that you can just go to that event, check in for it. You can,
Cool.
and then when the event's over, you just check out and you're done.
Yep. On
So,
to the next one.
and then on to the next one.
That's
So,
awesome.
Awesome. You guys are smart.
We're
yeah.
good. We're working on it.
It's such I mean, this is why we're having these conversations too, because it is such an untapped space. I think we're starting to tap into it, and I think
Mhm.
this is going to unlock like the next level of running. Like a
100%.
good crew and solid support team is what's going to keep pushing these course records just further and further. So
Yep.
thank you for all that you do.
Of
Yeah. Thanks
course.
for having us on.
Yeah.
Yeah, where can people find you guys?
So you can find us on Instagram at Ultra Crew Hub. You can go to ultracrewhub.com. You can contact us via a form through that. You can also go onto the app, sign up. It's all free. Check into a race.
At the App Store. Yeah.
Yep, Apple apps.
Mhm.
And yeah, don't hesitate. Reach out, drop a form on our website, hit us up on Instagram,
Listen to some podcasts.
listen to some podcasts. We got
Spotify.
some more. We have some YouTube videos out that we're putting together and beta testing. Like we see running these races from a runner's perspective, but what you don't see is what it's like to crew it from a crew's perspective. So we have a
Ooh.
couple of events out on YouTube right now.
Visually.
The
Mhm.
Wasatch, we have Black Canyon. I'm getting ready to release Superior. So you kind of get that visual what it looks like rolling into an aid station and whatnot. So
Yeah.
hennepins out there and stuff. So
Oh, Henny Pins on my bucket list. Who was it? Harold had one more good call out when we were talking about gear, proper camp lighting. I saw somebody with like this really cool like light stick thing when they were getting ready at the start of Cocodona, because I mean like a lot of these races start in the dark. So
yeah,
yeah, lightings. Do you guys have any cool lighting that you use when you're out there?
That's so funny because you don't think about that. A lot of people are just sitting there with their phones
Yeah.
because that's all they have at the time, and you're like, oh my gosh, we started this at 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. and I didn't need a light. But I think headlamps. I think everybody's
Mm,
headlamps are crucial just because it's hands free.
right.
But there are so many cool camp lights out there
We've
now.
got these little pull apart like lanterns that have
Uh-huh.
a hook on them. So you close
Mhm.
it to shut it off. You pull it open to open it. You can hang it on the back of
Silly things from like
the
Walmart, like nothing
hatchback or
fancy.
something like that. So
Yeah.
A light's a light. But yeah, I mean, if they've got cool things, I mean, just roll with it. A light's a light.
and
So
and Harold, you're a great candidate to go in and just drop some information on some of these races, and we'll post it in the on that race events website, and people can read this information and kind of have an idea what they're getting into. So, and that's kind of what we want to build. We want to have the community input, just drive this information out to us, and we'll put it out there for everybody. So,
yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you
Mhm.
so much for your time this evening. I had a lot of fun hanging out with you. I hope that our trails cross sooner rather than later.
Yes.
absolutely.
So fun.
That,
Thanks,
that
guys.
sun coming through, it's looking
Yeah, time to get some air conditioning. Get some shade,
Yeah.
Shelby.
Time to go for a run.
Yeah, for real.